conectando con nuestra comunidad. Esto es ¿Qué pasa, Boston?
¿Qué pasa, Boston? Bienvenidos. This is such an exciting show because today we are here to bring you special moments and also a special person that is representing us. She's a graduate of Harvard. She has also become one of the stars of social media because I see her everywhere. She is actually trending everywhere you search. And today she's going to tell us about the city and what her plans are and how hard and difficult it is to run one of the most amazing cities of the United States, which is Boston. Welcome, Mayor of Boston, Michelle Wu. Bienvenida. Bienvenida. And for some of you that you don't know, Michelle actually is polylingual, right? Because you speak how many languages?
A couple.
Bienvenida.
Gracias.
Muchas gracias por estar con nosotros.
Un honor. Como
El
siempre.
honor es mío. This is a show that brings a lot of resources and tools. And today, I want to make sure that you have a way of sharing a little bit of what people don't know and how we can elevate ourselves as a community, how we can help others bring their lives to the next level, and also help and support become the city that you have dreamed of as a mayor. What is it like to be Michelle Wu?
Most of the time, it's very busy. It's the biggest thing. I am blessed every day to wake up in this incredible city and get the chance to try to help the community that has given me everything, to meet people who are just the most amazing leaders all across our neighborhoods, working every day, rolling up their sleeves, solving every problem there is, and finding a way to take care of our community. I'm also a mom. I have 3 kids now, so my sons are 10 and 8, and baby Mira is 7 months old now, and I live in a multi-generational household, so I am juggling in between the both generations, right? Trying to raise my family alongside my husband, living with my mom, and understanding what our seniors are now living at this stage of their lives. And it is a blessing every day to know Boston and to try to fight to make sure that we continue to stay who we are and continue to keep moving the city forward.
I'm so glad that you touched that topic, that you're a mom, that you live with your mom. Nowadays, this diverse city, we have multi-generation families where we live in places that we have to adjust financially because it's really expensive to live in Boston. I don't have to tell you that, you know that. But as our listeners, we are immigrants, we are homeowners, we are entrepreneurs. We want to know how we can help the city and how we can make it easier for us to navigate in such a complex environment. I'm going to go straight to the core of this particular topic because it just happened. It's all over the news. I want to know why you're standing firm against Washington or, with all the consequences that it can bring us as immigrants and with all the fear that we have in this city as a diverse population going against ICE, right? What is your stand? I want you to explain as a woman, as a mother, what your kids live here. And they're actually seeing everything that's happening. And I am sure that all of you are actually asking that question too. We want to know, why are you doing that? And what are the consequences? Have you thought about it?
We are in such a challenging and consequential moment in politics, in government, in history right now. And I ran for this job as mayor of Boston, and I ran for city council before that because I believe in city government. I believe in the closeness between residents and their government that you really only feel when you are seeing your constituents every single day, not talking to people through TV cameras and far away from DC, but out in the neighborhoods, out in the streets. And so my primary focus is always on our city and really local issues. Are we keeping our streets clean? Are we making sure that the schools have the resources that they need? Are we creating jobs right here in our neighborhoods for our residents? Are we ensuring that Boston is the safest major city in the country? And so that's always usually where my head is and where my focus is, in Boston, in our streets, head down doing the job. Unfortunately, more and more now, what is happening in DC is directly impacting everything that we experience in the city. Our city has been under attack, whether it is jobs in the major industries like life sciences, universities, hospitals that this federal administration is trying to take away the funding for or stop critical life-saving cancer research and change all of the rules about who benefits. Or it is the very, as you say, the core of who we are, the identities of our community members, where we have now residents who have built their lives in Boston, who have not committed any crimes or have no record whatsoever, who have been snatched off the streets by secret police on their way dropping their children off at school or trying to live their lives. And
However, some people feel, and I get a lot of emails and calls and text messages, a lot of people feel that you are putting us as a target, versus the nation. Because there are very few politicians, especially mayors, that are standing up against our government. How do you feel about that?
yeah, I take my cue from our residents. And so before I went to DC, before I spoke out this week, when we received that letter from DC that said, you must tell us by this day how you are changing your laws and how you are going to basically cooperate with mass deportations, I went and I asked our community members again, what do you want our city government to say? What do you want us to communicate? Is it too much? Do you believe that we should in fact take a back seat and not say anything? And the voices of our residents were very clear in the instructions that they gave to me, right? El silencio frente a opresión no es una opción. And they said, it is not an option to stay silent in the face of oppression, in the face of all of the, not just unjust, but unlawful actions that are happening right now. And I get it. I grew up in an immigrant family where my parents were very, I'll say it, skeptical and scared of government, that the best thing to do was just to try to stay out of the spotlight, keep your head down, and maybe someone else could be the focus, or maybe you just survive one more day. And what I have seen now, and I think what we've all experienced, is that when we find the courage to speak truth to power, that courage helps another community feel safer as well. And I have received outreach from many other cities saying, we need to keep going and stand together. And our residents, most of all, have told me that we need to speak out for our own protection and our own safety. If not us, if not this moment, then who and when is going to stand up?
So how can we help keep our communities safe? Because when you say we have to stand up for our community and actually give the tools and the resources to our citizens and residents, how can you do that when you're going to a federal court, right? Because immigration is not in the city, it's going to be a federal law. How do we tell our people, this is the way that you can protect yourself, or this is the way that you should, this is the guide of how to respond to certain attacks, especially when we are on the lookout, right?
In some ways right now, the most powerful force is knowing the truth, because there is so much misinformation that is being pushed out there, right?
Eso lo tiene que saber mi gente. Hay mucha mala información. Esa información tiene que venir de fuentes que sean creíbles.
La verdad tiene el poder, porque en este momento hay mucha intimidación, la fuerza de opresión comienza en el narrativo falso. And so when we hear from the federal government cities that are standing up and saying that we are going to continue following the desires and supporting our diverse, welcoming communities, that we are somehow less safe because of it, or that we are somehow doing things that are not following the law. The first thing to know is that Boston always follows the law, city, state, and federal. And it is nothing in the federal law or the US Constitution that allows for the federal government to come in and take over local communities. It is, in fact, the opposite that is written into our laws because of Boston's history, because our city and our country was born out of revolution, out of saying we will not let an outside tyrant come in and tell us how we take care of our communities, our economy, our neighbors. That is why the laws that we have
Is
are how
that
they
what
are.
you're teaching your kids at home? How is it to be a son or a daughter of Michelle Wu when you're talking about these topics?
You know
I mean,
that
they're very young, but they go out and they probably get some comments, right? And
Yeah, I think there's something very both meaningful, but also a little bit, it's just very heavy raising children in this era where my kids know all of the issues very well, right? They have studied climate change even in second grade and fourth grade last year. They're about to start third grade and fifth grade this year. But from very, very young age, they know of things that are scary, and they have seen with their eyes what it looks like to be in politics and to be in government in this moment. I think they are, we try to find the words to explain that to them, and that makes sense, that there are differences of opinion, that we try to stand up for what's right. The other thing about raising kids where you try to empower them to be strong leaders is that already at ages 8 and 10, they think they know everything, and therefore you have to listen to
wait
them
till they
about
turn
what is right.
17 and you'll see they know everything. They know everything. But at some point, and I want to make sure, like us as a community, and I'm a mother. I don't know how it was the experience. Well, I know how it was the experience for most of us in our group, but Michelle, I don't know how you do it. You're talking about your two kids that actually they can listen and understand. But now, being a mayor, having a baby, never mind being pregnant, like now you have a baby, and 2 days later you were working. There are a lot of our listeners and our audience that have probably these questions. I have it. I ask that question all the time. How do you do the mother thing and the mayor thing and then re-election and like everything else on top of it? You're a daughter, you're a wife. How is it for you? How difficult? Because I had postpartum depression. I don't know if that happened to you. Probably you didn't even have time to be depressed. How do you do it? What is it like to bring your baby everywhere? Because a lot of women don't have that opportunity either. We're working moms, and we cannot bring our kids everywhere, or our pets, right? Our dogs.
I am inspired every day by the example of moms, working parents, but especially the moms who are just getting it done in our neighborhoods. And I'm in front of the cameras on a daily basis, and so people see a little bit the level of juggle and balancing that has to involve when you are working and you have a family. But there are so many families who, without cameras, without the attention, are doing the impossible of trying to make sure that they're doing right, taking care of their kids, setting a great example, working hard, providing for their family, and trying to lead and contribute to the community and earn that income. So I am blessed and very privileged to have a support system and to be able to have the options to try to juggle how we've been juggling. My husband has taken a step back from his career, and once I became mayor, and has been running all over the city with me, or even to DC with me, to try to to make sure that we could juggle everything.
And I think the environment and the world is changing to that type of environment of social acceptance, right? Because if you think about it, most of the women are elevating their careers and their professional lives, and they're the breadwinners. Sometimes the head of the household. Lots of single women. How can you explain one of those mothers, like, it's okay to bring your baby with you, it's okay to breastfeed? Amamantar un bebé, alimentarlo frente al público. I mean, like, that takes guts. Because it's interesting, right? For some people, it's rare.
There's no right way. There's no perfect way to raise a child, is what I want to say. And sometimes we hold ourselves to the expectations or the unfair standards that are held out, particularly for working parents, particularly for moms in society, where you have to be either a great, perfect mom or you have to be either a great, perfect employee. And the second that you show that you are both of those things at the same time, it's either unprofessional or you're not doing a good job raising your kids or this or that. And all those systems serve to do is to push people out of leadership in the workforce, and in fact to miss out, for all of us to miss out on the talent that is there. And so I try to do the juggle, not because I'm trying to make a statement, not because I'm trying to, prove something or other things. I'm doing what is right for my family in this very special time that we're very lucky to have these options to do. When a baby is young, they got to eat. And
Yeah, but how do you feel about women or parents that are fighting for that 6 month time that they can become parents and actually focus at their home, right?
everyone
They're
should
like,
have the full range of options that they can afford to raise their families how they want to make those choices. And so I'm very proud that when I had my first two kids serving as a city councilor, in fact, when right after my oldest son was born, now he's 10 now, I authored and passed the first ever paid parental leave ordinance for the city of Boston for our city workers. Now, as mayor, we have expanded that to just about all of our city workers through collective bargaining and the contract process. But we are the only developed country in the world that doesn't provide for some kind of federal paid parental leave program. We still pretend, even once babies are born, that between age 0, from birth to 5, that somehow they're invisible and the families are going to figure it out. And then once you start kindergarten, then you get free kindergarten, then you get free education. But in fact, those are the most important years for brain development, for families to be able to keep putting money on the table, and for families to bond and grow together. So we are fighting every day in Boston to be a home for everyone. And when I say that, I mean the safest city in the country, but also the most family-friendly city with policies that support that.
speaking of safetiness in safe cities, a lot of our community messages also come about the bike lanes and what the structure has become on the roads and how it has incremented traffic. How is the infrastructure, affecting us when we're driving around? Why did you decide to create these bike lanes?
I'll say we have become known nationally for our safety statistics when it comes to driving down gun violence and homicides and crime to the lowest levels on record in Boston. And I see my job as mayor, first and foremost, is keeping our community safe. Everything else relies on that. Safety, though, is not just about being free from violence and all the things that we think about when we bring in our police officers and community members. It's also safety on the streets, just getting to where you need to go. And in many cases, in our city and in other cities, we saw preventable, horrible tragedies happening on the roads when either a senior was crossing the road and it wasn't safe, or a young child, or someone who was riding a bike. And so everywhere that you see something that changed on the roadways, whether it's a speed hump or a bike lane or some kind of other new divider, it's because someone in the community who lived near there or who uses that street reached out and said, I do not believe my life is safe unless we make some changes. And it's hard because the roads are used so differently by everyone. Many people, and I understand this, juggling kids and schedules, you're trying to get where you're trying to get as fast as possible. But when you zoom down that side street because Google Maps told you to take this shortcut through someone's neighborhood to get to where you need to go, the people who live in that neighborhood no longer feel like they can have their kids play in their front yards because it's so dangerous when the cars are driving so fast. So they want the cars to go over a speed hump, have to slow down so their kids can walk around and enjoy their childhoods. And so it's all a balance. And much of what we have done now over the last 3.5, almost 4 years, is continue what was first put in place under Mayor Menino, laying out where the connected routes would be to be safe for cyclists or pedestrians, and then finishing the different links that have to happen so that those routes can actually be safe, so we can move more people and therefore actually reduce or fix traffic. And we're doing everything we can so that everyone can not just live in our city, but get around our city.
How do you explain that getting around Mass and Cass? It is so tough, and probably you guys feel the same way I feel. One, it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart because those children or those adults are somebody's ex-husband, husband, sons, daughters. How did we get there? Why does it look like we haven't done anything? However, I know, because I know you've worked on it. What can you tell our audience about Mass and Cass and why it's becoming, because I've seen it, Seattle, horrible, Philadelphia, terrible. Boston, you see it in that area, but it's not taking over downtown yet, right? We don't want to get to that point. How are you managing it? What's the plan for Mass and Cass? How can we deal with all these challenges?
Whenever there's a national challenge that cities are sort of left trying to pick up the pieces or address on our own, it is very complicated and it's very tough. And the opiate crisis, how to deal with addiction and how to deal with homelessness and how to deal with mental health, especially when it's all combined together, that is a very complicated challenge that every city is trying to address. When I came into office 4 years ago, Boston had truly a humanitarian crisis in that area. There were 200 plus people who had been living on the streets for years at that point in structures that they had built, wood pallets and propane tanks, fires that were happening because people were just using the gas tanks and blankets. There were violence, of course, the overdoses from drug use, and for many years at that point, the city had basically had an area where it was sort of out of sight, out of mind. You could look away. And we decided that we were going to try to do something about it, to create for the first time housing with services, with a pipeline to treatment. Hundreds of people have come in through that. We no longer have encampments and tents. The number of people who are experiencing overdoses is down in Boston. The number of people living on the street is down. The number of people who need
How come
support
it looks
is down.
like it's not down, though?
Because it used to be concentrated all in one area that was a little further away from the neighborhoods. And now, even though the street counts are down and the numbers show that we've made some important steps, it is feeling, for some smaller targeted areas in our city, like it is very much closer to where people are living. And that is not acceptable, right? As a mom, the safety of your children begins in your home and then the moment you open your door. And so if you see needles on the ground, or if you're worried about whether the park is safe or walking to home, that is not acceptable. And I am by no means saying that we have fixed the problem or that we should be taking any kind of victory lap. We are now doubling down. So we have now moved past Boston having encampments. We've created an infrastructure. We're able to take steps now that we couldn't have taken years ago when it was tried over and over again to just sweep the area, but then everyone would come back. We are now expanded to 24 hours of public health, public safety, and coordinated response outreach. We are now doubling down on some of the enforcement options that are available and moving people into treatment through many different ways. We're working with local providers where now we have beds for detox that are reserved and available immediately with transportation immediately, as opposed to waiting to find someone a bed and then they missed out on that window. And so we're making progress, but I know we have to do more, and particularly for our neighborhoods.
I think also, and probably you believe the same thing, this is not only a city problem. You have to talk private sector, pharmaceuticals. There's a lot that comes into place there because it's a business. When you're treating these patients, these people that have addictions, you're moving product.
There's much more awareness now, and after some major lawsuits that really have started to hold some of the pharmaceutical companies accountable, there's now funds that go out to manage, at least in terms of the families who have survived, those who lost their lives to overdoses and other kinds of impacts. So we're still very much in the middle of it, But it's also difficult being the only city in a larger area that is really stepping up, because many of the individuals who are coming and seeking shelter and treatment in Boston, we will always be a center city that welcomes and tries our best to support everyone who is in our city. But when people aren't able to find these resources in their home communities, that does put additional strain on Boston and other cities who are stepping up.
What can we do as a community, as residents? What can we do to help you clean our streets? How can we report these situations? How can we support the efforts that you are having? Because it is very easy to point the finger. It's very easy to say, like, oh, it's the mayor's fault, when we know there's so many layers on top of it. But we need to also take accountability. How can we support you clean our city and help these people?
Well, I will say I always appreciate and am grateful for the accountability, right? My name is there on the ballot, and this is an issue that I know is so important to everyone and that we need to continue making progress on. So I welcome all of the feedback from every place. We have many opportunities for people to give us the specific details and to work alongside us to help steer these efforts. And sometimes I feel there's a disconnect because we're often working with a small group of neighborhood association leaders, for example, who are dedicated and know these issues. But then if you maybe you moved to the neighborhood more recently, or you're not plugged into that place, that, this group that's meeting every single quarter or every single month with the Boston Police and other places, you might not know what's happening. So we need help getting the word out. Come to these meetings, get plugged in with the neighborhood associations. There are ongoing conversations just about every way with the small business owners, with residents in the South End and Roxbury and other neighborhoods that have been more directly impacted. There are many ongoing advisory committees or task forces that are doing this work, but we want to make sure that everybody knows how to share the feedback, because we can only take steps forward in the right way if we know exactly what's happening on the ground and hearing from everyone.
Tengo una pregunta en español de uno de nuestros oyentes. Mucha gente siente que no han sido escuchados. There's a lot of our community and residents that feel that they have not been listened. ¿Tú qué puedes contestarle a la gente que siente que no se les ha dedicado el tiempo, que no has tenido oportunidad de escucharlos?
El objetivo de nuestro gobierno es hacer las acciones que no individual puede hacer por sí mismo. Necesitamos las opiniones, la colaboración entre todas las partes de nuestra comunidad para hacer las soluciones que verdaderamente puede funcionar. Entonces, este es la más importante parte de servir a nuestros residentes. Hay reuniones en cada manera de cuestión o acción, pero también hay una infraestructura para participar continuamente con las asociaciones de cada barrio, la oportunidad de participar en las comisiones con cada departamento de la ciudad. Y cuando hay un proyecto o un plan que es cerca de su interés, por favor, contacta a nosotros, participar, y no siempre es posible implementar las soluciones que cada persona quiere, porque necesitamos también un censo de las diferencias entre las opiniones de nuestra comunidad también. It's hard to find
that is so important. And I'm glad that you
consensus
say
without,
that.
not
Yes.
everyone's. Sometimes we hear that it's important to be, anyway, well, let me back up and say, the point of our government is for everyone's voices to steer things that we can't do by ourselves. And so feedback and being heard really is the most important part of our job. At the same time, we often talk about the same problems over and over again, but because we might not have agreement among all of the members of our community, do you stay doing nothing and watching it get worse,
I just
or do you
feel
decide
everybody
to move
wants
forward?
a piece of you. It's like, I want to sit down with Michelle. I want to sit with Mayor Wu. I want her to listen to me, and they want that devoted attention. It's very hard. I mean, I'm a businesswoman, and I have a lot of people to respond to. I'm not you at all. And I can only imagine what it is for you to be pulled in so many ways.
Well, tenemos un equipo muy
Maravilloso.
grande y muy importante. All of the leaders who are part of our cabinet, our department heads, this is not a city where, you know, una persona solamente is deciding any of the most important decisions alone. We have an entire team, and that includes collaboration between city government and our neighborhood associations, community partner organizations, faith leaders. There are many ways to get involved. And so if you have a particular interest, or if you have a particular question, or you want to talk about a particular project, please reach out. But also join the ongoing organization that is there, the structures that are there in our community for the conversations about everything that's happening in our neighborhoods.
I wish I had more time to extend this conversation, because I have so many questions for you. But before we leave, 2026, it's such a big year. We have so much happening. We have the World Cup coming to Boston. You have the tall ships, the 250th anniversary of the United States. We have over 80,000 conventions coming into our city. How are you going to manage all that infrastructure? Because if it's hectic and crazy out there, I'm sure that you know that you don't want to be stuck in traffic. How are you going to manage that? And how our community, us, the diverse community, Latinos, African American, Asian, everybody, how can we maximize and capitalize from that opportunity? Because that's a huge opportunity for us.
Well, first, I want to say 2025 is a very important year, too. So I will need to make sure that I've asking for everyone's vote. And if I am blessed to have the chance to continue in this role in that year, then it's going to be an incredible, incredible moment for the city of Boston, with all of the national, international visitors and attention that will be on the city. Many of these planning efforts are well underway in partnership with the coordinating committees and with the state and other entities. And we've been also working, we've sat down recently with the MBTA to say, how will we move so many people? They will be serving more riders than they ever have at one moment before. So this is going to require some real investments in infrastructure, in small business and economic development opportunities, and we're going to ensure that our city is really reflected in the face that we show to the world, but also the benefits and the opportunities that will hopefully be sustained and be felt long after these events are moving on to the next city.
Michelle, I am rooting for you. I'm hoping that everybody has now the facts, the knowledge, the resources to know who you are voting for. There's opportunity for you to learn more. Where can they find more information?
Our website is michelleforboston.com.
michelleforboston.com. And I would love for our audience to have a couple of questions for you. Are you okay with that?
Please.
Okay. So
I would like to first thank you for everything you do for our city. I am an immigrant too, and it's really nice that you stand in ground. Just to know that all the other some states are backing off and you're standing your grounds. That's really important. I'm a real estate agent here in Boston, and I just want to know what are the what are the plans for the taxes? Like, taxes just keep rising, and we have older people that already finished paying their homes and worried about where we're going to go with the property taxes.
Yes. Thank you for all that you do in our community and connecting people to their forever homes and how they can care for their families. The cost of housing has been the biggest stress for our residents for well over a decade now, and property taxes are a big piece of that. That's why last year we proposed a common sense, balanced legislation that almost passed, and we fought for it for over a year. It was implemented by the city previously in 2004 when there was a similar kind of challenge around commercial properties versus residential properties. And what everyone should know is that Massachusetts is a state where cities do not have the power to decide most things about their taxes. It is set by state law, and what happens automatically under state law, under the larger economic conditions we're in, is that when commercial values are dropping, it automatically gets shifted over to residents, unless you pass legislation that can help protect residents. We continue to fight for that legislation. It was passed now 3 times by the Boston City Council, 2 times by the State House of Representatives, and stopped in the Senate. It was also agreed on as a compromise with business leaders and organizations that were at the table. And so we have a proposal that would provide immediate relief, and I urge the state to take this up and do this because our residents across the city really need that relief.
Thank you so much for your answer.
Marianne?
Estimada alcaldesa de Boston, gracias por contestar nuestras preguntas. Como empresaria perteneciente a una comunidad minoritaria y LGBT, me gustaría saber qué beneficios o apoyos específicos ofrece actualmente a la ciudad de Boston para negocios como el nuestro, y agradezco su atención y cualquier orientación que nos pueda brindar.
Gracias. Gracias por la pregunta. Nuestra economía es la fundación del bienestar de nuestra familia también. La economía no solamente es de empresas grandes, downtown y en el centro comerciales, pero también en cada barrio. Las empresas pequeñas son la conexión y los espacios para cada familia de ser parte de la comunidad y también tomar los beneficios de trabajo y otros beneficios. Entonces, en nuestra administración teníamos tomar la oportunidad de dar fondos a pequeñas empresas en cada barrio. Más de 90 empresas pequeñas recibido nuestros Space Grants, los
I love
fondos,
her Spanish.
los fondos para llenar los espacios vacíos en Boston con una empresa nueva, conceptos incluyendo Dorchester Food Co-op o las empresas Boston Flower Company, cada manera de restaurantes y bibliotecas, empresas para los biblios y otro cuidado infantil también. Entonces, hay más de 800 trabajos de esta fuerza, pero conozco que muchas más empresas necesitan este apoyo. Entonces hay colaboraciones entre nuestra comunidad, cada sector y otras organizaciones, los bancos, por ejemplo, y nuestro gobierno municipal para continuar unos de estos programas.
Hello. So my question is more steered towards the happy hour. So given Boston's nightlife scene, because I'm personally well tapped into that scene, I feel like the lack of happy hour really, might drive down businesses, whether it's restaurants or bars. Is there anything that you guys in administration is doing to either, work with the state legislature to reconsider this law or, to help support the bars in Boston and restaurants to just create more like a lively after work type of environment for everyone?
Thank you so much. We have been trying to get at this in a couple of different ways. So happy hour is unfortunately still banned by state law in Massachusetts, dating back to our roots as a very serious and in some ways restricted community. The specific thing that is banned is discounts on alcohol.
Correct.
But the idea that we could create special events or times or activities that can attract and draw foot traffic, that is something that we need to continue to push forward even as we are looking to change state law. And Boston has been doing this in a number of ways. First, we worked with our partners at the city and the state level to add 225 new liquor licenses for the city. This is the most new licenses the city has gotten since Prohibition. And that will be 225 new establishments that not only create fun and create welcoming spaces for everyone, but create jobs and are really important for the health and well-being of our neighborhoods. We've also really focused on extending late night in our city. We created, under the leadership of our nightlife economy director, we have established a night committee that has led to a couple of different reforms already. One of them most recently I was celebrating was late night food trucks.
I saw that.
So for the very
love
first
it.
time, Boston now has food trucks, sometimes in 7 different locations, going in some sites up to 3 a.m. This is to support, again, fun, a whole part of our economy, making sure Boston is welcoming for everyone. But also there are a lot of workers, whether it's public safety workers, right? This idea first came about from firefighters who said we're on shift overnight and there's not a ton of great food options for us. So whether it's healthcare staff or others who are third shift workers, providing more fun, fresh, healthy options as well, and again, creating jobs in our city. And then overall, our small business efforts have been directed towards making sure that every community has the representation, the investment, and the vibrancy that makes that neighborhood a destination. So as we await other things that are happening at the state level, we're doing everything we can at the city level so that each neighborhood of Boston is a place where you can go, enjoy, experience something new, and see the contributions to our economy as well.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, so much for listening, for tuning in. ¿Qué pasa, Boston? Don't forget to download that iHeart app and select ¿Qué pasa, Boston as your favorite podcast. Don't forget to tune in 97.7 and Jammin' 94.5. We'll see you next week with more guests, with more resources and more tools. Gracias, Michelle Wu. Gracias, Mayor of Boston.
Gracias por
We're
todo.
very, very honored to have you here at ¿Qué pasa, Boston?
Thank you so much. Don't forget to vote.
Esto fue ¿Qué pasa Boston con Gabriela Salas? Síguenos para descubrir más historias de nuestra comunidad.